I found that people feel that the system is very rigid. लोगों को लगता है कि सिस्टम में चेंज लाना बहुत मुश्किल है, जो अथॉरिटीज़ हैं उनको जैसे करना, जैसे चाहते हैं वैसे ही करेंगे. But as part of system, I have found out कि whatever reforms are feasible and reasonable, उन reforms की even the authorities want to incorporate that, and they are more than happy to bring those reforms into the system, and ताकि आप लोगों को फ़ायदा हो. So as JSA Square, my motivation is that I have been part of the system, and as a Square I have learned things, I have come to know of things which can improve the academic system at present. So like if you would have seen my manifesto, it is a key section of my manifesto is an academic awareness. Presently a lot of academic programs the institute offers, people have no idea about, and hence वो plan नहीं कर पाते and उस तरह से apply भी नहीं कर पाते. So if you'll see SEM exchange program, URA, Europe, इन सब programs के बारे में लोगों को idea नहीं. So one key motivation behind my intent to stand as JSA Square is to bring in academic awareness. Besides that, मैंने बहुत सारे problems देखे हैं as a gender student, as a CR, as an IC Square, which I want to solve through my manifesto. So this is my motivation, and this is my, you would have my manifesto, and this is it.
Hello everyone. So I'm Vishnu Nair. I'm a 4th year undergraduate student from Department of Chemistry. I'm contesting for the post of General Secretary Academic Affairs UG. So I've been a part of the IIT system for the past 4 years, and I've been a victim to many of the system flaws, starting from a freshman when I faced a lot of learning issues, being in a big classroom where there are a lot of students, and when a professor cannot personally reach up to you. So basically such issues and something which hampered my interest to learn is something which motivated me to go for the position of an Institute Secretary of Academic Affairs last year. And being an Institute Secretary of Academic Affairs, I moved into a solution to this problem, that is by starting off Student Support Services and the Tutorial Services Center, basically to help students in their academics and to side by side help them grow and learn in their perspectives. And for starting up of Student Support Services and the Tutorial Service Center, I was honored with an Institute Organizational Color Award, because we had a very excellent feedback about the whole system which I constructed, and people appreciated my work for being the same. And I want to become a GSA Square not just because of these motivations, but I also love to do such organizational work, or it is my motivation to see that people can have a proper learning in this institution. And apart from this being a GSA Square, I can help people in all the dimensions of their academics by making policy and infrastructural changes and respond to the requirements, being a responsible and an accountable GS. And moving on to my vision, I want to help students to develop their basic set of skills like communication and soft skills and make them more professional in their aspects of living. And this is a very fundamental problem as far as I've realized, because as I've interacted with many recruiters and the placement students who sit in placements, they've said that most students are technically sound, but they're not sound in the sense of their soft skills. So my main focus in my manifesto is to see that we help students in their soft skills and the communication center, which are my key initiatives in student support services. And apart from that, being a DAMP mentor, I have seen students who are very much distressed and who are not open to share their problems. So for this, I want to start up an online counseling portal so that they can discuss anonymously with the counselor their issues. And being in the DAMP team, I also restructured a couple of lab courses to shift the emphasis of these lab courses to the experimental side. And being a GS, I wish that I would have the power to actually implement the same in most of the departments. And apart from that, there are a lot of students who actually get extensions and fail out on their academics or learning once they are here. And to help such students, I would like to see that we institute a diploma program for such students so that they can have an early exit and not waste their time if they're not interested in doing this course, and they can go ahead utilizing their time properly and have a better life. And for the same thing, we see that generally people come up with different interests to the institute. and they actually realize their interest later on when they are actually in the institute. So for this, I would like to see that we have an interdisciplinary dual degree program so that they can actually shift on to their interest later on by converting themselves to a master's program with having a different bachelor's. And one unique advantage of being in IIT Bombay is that we have a very good alumni student network, which will actually help me to collaborate with the student alumni relationship cell to actually implement or reinstate the programs like industrial learning program and speed mentoring program, which we had implemented in our tenure. I would like to reinstate them basically so that an industrial learning program can actually help students to have an exposure of industrial research and the many aspects of industries which they do not get exposed to in their courses. And I'll also reinstate the speed mentoring program to help students to go through the Skype-based career counseling sessions with the help of alumnus to have a better decision on their careers. With this brief overview of a manifesto, I would like to thank you all for your attention, and I really look forward to the rest of the debate, and I hope that this turns out to be a productive discussion, and thank you all again for your attention.
So that was for the opening statement. So we'll just move on to the part 2 of this particular soapbox, which is the manifesto debate. The candidates have already validated their points, which we will be discussing over here. The rules are simple. Basically, this particular debate will last for, could probably, the upper cap is 20 minutes. They could possibly question one another. The maximum number of questions which could probably be asked are 10. So, going by the alphabetical order, I'll just ask Shubham first in order to just start with this particular.
Okay. So my first question is on your point in the manifesto, wherein you are allowing students with no backlogs to do ALCs in the summers.
Yeah.
So my point is that if such students do take ALCs in the summers and are later able to tag it as electives, so what you are doing in effect is that you are reducing the load in the curriculum, and also you're making it a compulsion for students to stay in during the summers, because their peers who are staying would be doing those courses, and if anyone, the official break is given by the institute, and if anyone takes that break, he's actually losing out on the opportunity to get those grades.
So first of all, taking up a course in summer is optional, and this is just for the students who are actually staying back here to utilize their time. Secondly, if I want to get this approved, I will have to first of all fix the law as you stated. So I'll be implementing it in such a way that the additional learning courses would remain as additional learning itself, and they would not be allowed to count it towards their core curriculum. They can either make it additional or they can keep it as their minors. So this is just to help students who want to do extra courses from the perspective of having more learning in a different field, and with subject to the availability of courses in summer or whatever courses are running.
Okay, fine. So you're suggesting that they won't be able to tag ALCs for electives, right? This is just for an additional learning.
Yeah, this is just for additional learning.
Fine, no issues. Then the second question I have is allowing guided study to be used as a method for clearing of backlogs. So right now you would be aware that even for branch change students, the the department introductory courses are not being allowed to be taken as guided study for a lot of departments. So how will you ensure that students with FRs, students who are not considered in the lectures, would be able to do, professors would allow them to do self-study and doing the courses? It would in effect mean that everyone would be ditching the courses and actually taking guided study to just, without attending the lectures, just give the final exams, which is happening in a lot of courses. Students don't attend the lectures. They just want to give the exams and clear the course, and you're promoting that.
So basically, if you have gone through the rule book, you will see that the guided study facility is totally based on a professor's consent to have it for his students. And it has to be approved by the UG APEC based on the criterion that he is actually through. And as you said, it is currently being allowed for students in chemical department to actually use to clear their backlogs. Okay, and mainly a guided study facility is to help students who have a chance of getting an extension just because they are stagnated here, because they cannot do it because of a slot clash. And it is to help such students specifically to overcome their backlogs and to see that, as you said, there will not be a misuse, because it is at the end of the day in the hands of a professor. He is the guiding body and he provides the guidance and decides upon the policy of evaluation totally. So the flaws would be fixed in by the professor, because he has in mind what all misuse can be done to the system. So basically, I don't think any professor would basically allow this if he sees that there could be a probable misuse, and he would definitely go through the history of the student to ensure that there is no misuse of the same.
But my point is, at the moment, very few professors.
Keep your mouth.
But my point is, at the moment, very few professors are actually allowing guided study. So don't you think it will benefit only a very small section of the student community, and actually will have no actual benefits for the students?
Can you reiterate the same once again?
At the moment, very small section of professors are actually allowing students to do guided study. In almost all courses, this facility is not allowed. So don't you think it narrows down to a very small section of the student community, and for a general student, it has no benefit at all?
So basically, if I become a GS, my aim would be to see that this is actually made aware for all the professors and the students, first of all. The awareness would be created, and this would be a solid. We'll modify the system solidly for a backlog student to, as you said, to ensure that he does not go through a misuse for it. And we'll also look upon the fact that whatever is being implemented is to see that the professor, it's totally under discretion of the student and the professor, first of all. Okay. And as you said, okay.
But my point is, professors are aware of this policy, and almost no professor is actually allowing this policy to be taken up. So guided study is not taken up right now. So how do you, the same question, it won't benefit a general student?
See, if you look at the number of people who are actually in ARP and have actually in backloggers, you would actually find a lot of students who would be benefited by this. This would actually benefit a couple of students, because there are a lot of students who have backlogs and they are not able to clear their DIC or many courses because of this slot clashes. So basically the main motivation is to see that if you fail upon your DIC, you actually cover up these courses or these contents in your higher level courses anyway. So you actually need not sit through a course which is quite basic in nature. So we need not actually defeat the purpose of learning at the end of the day.
Let me just interrupt you over here. There is a twisting of the facts which is happening. So basically, as far as the guided study is concerned, it is only meant for those students who have 1 or 2 backlogs, and that too at the time when they are about to graduate. So basically, for the students who are already there in ARP, those, I mean, you know the criteria to be in ARP.
Yeah.
So it is.
But even if they can clear a course.
No, I am just letting you know the policy, the current policy.
Yeah, I am aware of the current policy, and it is totally at the discretion of UG APEC, basically. And if a UG APEC wishes...
The policy?
Yeah?
The policy?
Yeah, it is there in the rule book that it's totally under the discretion of UG APEC to help students. So we are actually going to make use of the discretion to help students out.
Point is, at the moment, the students in the ARP are not even able to clear the courses when they have regular classes. And how do you expect them to clear courses with guided study, with no professor involvement, with no lectures? And also one more point, professors do not agree to this policy. How are you going to make sure this is implemented?
Okay, so as you said in your first part, it is the professor actually has a decision on how he is going to make the student learn the course. And I don't think any professor would be against the fact that he can actually make it learn by suggesting him proper materials and proper stuff, and he can actually help the student learn by giving proper guidance. And it is mandatory in this program that the student and the faculty have to interact once in a week.
I agree to all those policies, but the same question, the professors, even for in electrical branch, you will see branch and students, they have a CPA above 8, and they are not allowed to take the department introductory course for branch students as guided study. So again, the same point, professors are not in the favor of this policy. They are not going to implement it. How are you going to make sure the professors will allow students to take up guided study?
Okay, so as you were specific about electrical engineering department, the provisions were assured by the student council that the course is issued to a slot where students can actually take up the DIC. Okay, and moving on to how we convince the professors, we would actually see it's currently not extended to backloggers on the rule book. It is only for the students who actually have a SEM drop, and at the end of the day at the discretion of the UG APEC. So basically, if UG APEC wishes to help students, and if we can convince them to see that there is a noble cause in helping students with a backlog or 2 to actually go up to clear their courses, then I don't see any fault in this.
Again, the same question is, the professors feel that...
Last 2 minutes.
Same question again. The professors feel that if you do not have a high CPI, you can't do a guided study course. That is a problem, which is why the DIC for electrical department has been scrapped as guided study. and that is why they have to do regular classroom lectures.
I guess
And
we can
again-
just we can just move on to the next question.
Fine. Okay, fine. The next point you raised in your career cell section, that compile a unified database of all independently secured foreign internships over the past few years and collaborate with PT Cell to convert them into IAs. Now my question is that the PT Cell does the same every year. The reason they are able to get new university interns is only because they have the database of previous years who have gone through apping, who have secured internships on their own. So what role are you actually playing in this system? And because the PT Cell is quite independent enough to do this on their own, and they are doing this already.
See, as the manifesto clearly indicates, it's an independently secured foreign internship. So there are lots of foreign internships which fall out of the purview of the PT Cell. So basically, we want to collect the data of these JAFs or these projects which actually fall out of the purview of PT Cell, because there are a lot of people who app on their own. We actually want to get these data to the PT Cell to expand them and to help them.
My question is, the PT Cell does that already. The students who secure their internships through apping, PT Cell does make that database so that the next year they can get new foreign university internships. So the PT Cell is already doing this. And what role as academic GSS Square would you be playing in this?
So basically, better than PT Cell, Academic Council has a better decentralization, as we can reach up to CRs and many students to collect it at a basic level than the PT Cell can do. So we can actually collect it from students who are in the 5th year and 4th year, and which are actually out of the purview.
No. The PT Cell has 24 ICs and they are allotted to each department. Don't you think the ICs have a better chance of getting the monitoring who is getting internships from their side?
So if
who
I
is
put-
getting internship from their own?
So if I put together,
Just a minute. You are done. Vishnu, you could probably start with your questions.
so
Time is finished.
replying to this, if I put together number of coordinators I have, the CRs I have, the CRs in all the departments,
Your
it
time
will
has
be
started.
bigger than the PT Cell's crowd. Okay.
No, the ICs are third year students. The CRs are second year students. The academic coordinator are second year students.
We have
With-
people in 4th year and 5th year also. They also undergo, they also
the
have
academic
on
council
their.
has just one GSS Square, 3 ISS squares. How are you going to compete with the placement team which has 24 ICs and separately they have department placement coordinators?
See, with this basically to assist them. We are not
No,
competing
they are
with
doing
them.
it on
We are
their own, so
assisting
there's
them.
no point of putting this point in the manifesto in the first place.
We are assisting them, and actually they need an assistance based on the fact that they have a lesser decentralization. We have a better decentralization compared to the fact that PT Cell has a smaller decentralization. You may have a set of, say, ICs, but to reach up to other set of students, there are people who are in 2nd year, there are people in 4th years and 5th years who can actually grab more
The
data.
ICs organize interns for second year students also.
I know that, but
they-
what about
they
the
have-
4th year and 5th year students?
They
We
are the
actually need to
department.
collect them.
Fifth year students don't go for internships.
There are people who go for internships, let me tell you.
Very few students, but basically this data is for second and third year internships, right?
Yeah.
A
See,
few, maybe 5 or 10 students may be going in their fifth year.
so basically we are just assisting them, as I told you. We need a unified database to assist them. I'm not saying that
your
we
role
are
in
trying to
your
replace
role,
them.
your role in this thing is very, very limited, very, very small. The PT Cell is already doing this, and this point is already ticked off in the manifesto.
See, basically if there are, say, 100 students who app on their own, out of which, say, at least 50 of them share the contacts with us. See, there is a discretion based on which the people actually share their contacts.
Vishnu, we could just possibly carry on this conversation again and again. I have already stated it to you that his time has been finished. You could probably start with your questions. Okay, thank you, guys.
So, my first question would be, how do you plan to implement the Diwali vacations? And are you familiar about its consequences?
Okay, so I'm going to implement like this. This time, the Diwali vacation, we have 3 consecutive holidays on 11, 12, and 13 November. That falls on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So there's a weekend before that and a weekend after that. There are only 2 working days which we need to shift, Monday and the Tuesday. So if we shift those 2 working days, we'll get 9 days off from the first Saturday to the next Sunday. Now to shift those these 2 working days, you would be aware that the Senate of IT Bombay decides on the academic calendar before the semester starts. And everything is taken into consideration, like the number of working Mondays, the number of working Tuesdays. And you would have found that a lot of Saturdays are made working Mondays and working Tuesdays based on the falling short of these working days. So as a student representative, what I'll be proposing in the Senate is that one two of these working days, one can be made on a Saturday and one we can start before the semester starts. One we can accommodate there.
Okay, so basically you said that we have this next year ka Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This is for the coming year, right? As you said. Okay, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and where Friday, Saturday, Sunday are already holidays, as you said.
Yeah.
So basically, this you mean to implement this for only 1 year?
No.
Just for the next year? Yeah. So this is not a sufficient response. First of all, because this would mean that you are moving it only for your tenure of GSA.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So this time it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Luckily, we have 3 working days which are off. At max, we'll have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That means we need to just shift 4 working days. So what we can do is 2 of these working days will be shifted for a Saturday. One will be shifted before the sem starts. One will be shifted after the semester starts. We won't be shifting any of these days. Maybe all these days before the same, because we know internships का problem आता है. लोग intern करके आते हैं, उनको time चाहिए. बाद में placement का option, placement का पेन आता है, तो एक हफ्ते placement वालों को दिया जाता है.
So basically, you want to go by luck and say that I would just implement it for 1 year, and after that I don't care.
I'm not going by the luck. I've talked to the concerned authorities, and even they are in favor of this.
So basically, you say that. So basically, you cannot make it. So do you believe that you can make it official because you actually eat away this whole a whole week, and then moving on, you will actually need to compensate for these working days. Apart from the Saturdays, first of all, you will need to see that the whole academic calendar is fixed in such a way that the number of working hours or the working hours for each class, for a 6-credit course or an 8-credit course, the hours are kept constant.
That is already being done. Like you would have seen, even in this semester, a lot of Saturdays were made working because there were less working Mondays or less working Tuesdays. So that will be taken into consideration. That will be done that way.
So basically, but this will actually mean that you will actually make the vacation shorter. Winter, if you make winter shorter, that will affect Fest and Mood Indigo. And if you make it shorter in the summer, it will affect summer courses, and it will also affect the people who are going on internships.
So I told you my proposal. I am shifting it by just 1 day back, 1 day forward. The winter vacation is being made short by just 1 day. The summer vacation is being made short by just 1 day.
But at the end of the day, do you see that it is... See, if you make it, say, official, then what about the students from other communities? You have to respect the demographics of the institute at the end of the day.
It's not about the other communities. Point is, we are giving... the government gives us the government is giving us 3 holidays in the Diwali week. And it does not matter if it is Diwali. If it would have been on some other festival, let us say Eid. If we would have been getting 3 holidays for Eid, we would have done the same thing. Because right now, if you have 3 holidays there, the students are already shifting their classrooms and asking the professor to schedule classes on a Saturday or a Friday and then already going home. So basically, it's providing a proper formalized mechanism then to take the break off. Because right now the classes are obviously being rescheduled through CRs on a Saturday or a Sunday. So I'm just providing a sort of formal solution to this thing.
So basically, you will say that you will make holiday for all the festivals that you want, depending on the request of the communities.
Point is, as I said, that the government has given us 3 holidays for Diwali. And because there are 3 holidays already, we just need to shift a few working days to get the whole week off. If it would have been on any other festival, which it is not right now, I would have shifted it for that.
So, at the end of the day, you
last 5 minutes, we couldn't possibly discuss the same question for more than 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll just conclude with this. So basically, you want to say that you will believe on the fact that Saturdays, Sundays and all these things come together, and at the end of the day, you are not going to set a good precedent for the future councils, as more holidays would be demanded at the end of the day.
No.
Being a GS, how would you actually satisfy them? What if somebody from a different community comes and asks you that I also want a holiday? It's unfair to actually give a week for Diwali when there are...
We are done. You can just move on to the next question.
So, moving on to a question on MSc representative. Okay, so about MSc representative, don't you think that it's already there in the Gymkhana constitution? What are you actually planning to suggest?
So one ISA square, like right now there are 3 ISA squares. One is for Empower, one is for Career Cell, and one is for your student support services. And we have a team of 12 academic coordinators. So one or two of those academic coordinators will be made in charge of the MSc problems. They'll be in contact with the MSc department general secretaries, and in case of any queries, we'll be directly relating it to the ISA squares, and we can solve those problems in that manner.
So basically, your manifesto points is that you are going to push for a separate MSc representative? What do you intend to push in this case actually?
So my intent is that one of the ISS squares will be given in charge of, will be given additional in charge of the MSc representative as an MSc representative in addition to present responsibilities, because the role of the ISS squares is properly defined in the Gymkhana Constitution. And I'll be making sure that one of the ISS squares will be given an addition in charge of those two coordinators who will be in charge of the MSc, who will be as MSc representatives in the council.
So basically I have a copy of my SAC constitution in my hand which already says that there is a position for a 2-year MSc representative. Why do you actually want to create, what exactly are you planning to move now? What are you pushing ahead? It's already there in the Gymkhana Constitution which says that there is a 2-year MSc representative according to the structure of the members of the Institute Academic Affairs Council for the UGs. So what new are you planning to push in this case?
The present academic council has a GSS square and 3 ISS squares, and that is it. And those 3 ISS squares have been given responsibilities as defined by my GSS square.
You say that you're pushing for it. Basically, it's already your push means to propose something new. Basically, if you understand the term. So basically, it's already there on the Gymkhana SAC Constitution. What exactly do you want to push in this? It's your it's just that you have to make sure that somebody is there. What are you pushing in this actually? How can this be your initiative on your manifesto?
So right now there is no 2-year MSc representative in the council, and it is, but right now in the council there is not one, there is not a representative. And I'll make sure we have a representative next time. If I am elected, I'll make sure I have a representative in my council. That is it. That is what I want.
Basically, you're not pushing for it. So at the end of the day, you're not proposing to have a separate representative at the end of the day. That's it, right?
Fine. My point is, I'll get a separate MSc representative in my council. If my point maybe sort of goes, कुछ और बताना चाहता है, it does not. It just wants to say that I'll have a separate MSc representative in my council. That is it.
So moving on to the next question. So don't you think that making the course feedback from concise to something small would lead to trivialization of the feedback, and that is not even required since filling up of feedback is voluntary as it is?
Point is, the present course feedback this will be an optional feedback form.
Yeah.
Fine. Presently there is an option for yes or no. And yes, you have to fill a course feedback for 60 questions, 50 to 60 questions, and most of them even are sort of repeated. My point is that if in a batch of 150 students you are just able to get a feedback for 10 students, what use इसका क्या फायदा है? अगर आप 150 में से 100 students का feedback ले रहे हो, and those 10 questions are very specific, like communication level कैसा था professor का, and all those things. Was he able to clear your doubts? Those specific questions, if they are being answered, we'll get a feedback from the whole classroom. That's my intent, because right now 150 में से 5 या 10 लोग ही भरते होंगे उसका feedback, and that is the case actually.
Basically, if you make it small, first of all, you are making it trivial, and you are not. This feedback form will not be effective because it is not going to check all the dimension and all the aspects that a faculty and a student's perspective has got.
This will be an optional course feedback form.
Is an optional for whatever be it. It has to reflect all the dimensions of the faculty.
No.
You cannot. This is not an IMDb movie ka rating ki you actually fill in a few of the points.
The present problem is that people are not filling the course feedback form. And again, out of a batch of 150, if just 10 are filling, you're not getting the opinion of the class. My point is to get the opinion of the class on how the course was conducted. So one option is to make the course feedback compulsory. Again, the same issue, 60 questions, कोई नहीं भरता अच्छे से. My point is 10 क्वेश्चन रख दो एकदम स्पेसिफिक. फीडबैक आपने यहाँ पे इतना बड़ा कोर्स फीडबैक देखा है. इफ यू वुड हैव सीन एनी अदर यूनिवर्सिटी इतने बड़े कोर्स फीडबैक नहीं होते हैं. तो बस 10-15 क्वेश्चन एकदम स्पेसिफिक.
Basically, at the end of the day, you are defeating the purpose of a course feedback. You are defeating the purpose of a course feedback because you are not touching on all the aspects of a course feedback form. It's a course feedback form at the end of the day. You have to touch on all the aspects of a course. It's not about convincing or making students happy.
Again the same thing. My point is that कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है अगर 150 में से 10 लोग भर रहे हैं, एंड वो भी आपको पता नहीं जेन्युइनली भरे कि नहीं. आजकल तो एक्सटेंशन आता है गूगल पे कि भाई उसको क्लिक करो आपका पूरा का पूरा फॉर्म भर जाएगा गूगल 60 क्वेश्चन का, एंड नीचे कमेंट्स भी आ जाएंगे.
So basically, if there is something else, you should take care that whatever is being filled, you filter out the essential components out of it.
How will you for a MCQ course feedback, how will you going to make sure कि कौन सा ठीक से भरा है कौन सा नहीं भरा है? And my point again is the same thing. Concise course feedback will only have those questions which you said are essential. That are the questions I want to put forward in my feedback form.
So if you know how the feedback form actually comes out, each and every question is evaluated, and there is a score pertaining to each and every question that you ask. Based on that, you can actually filter out each and every aspects of the instructor and the course, because there are once you see the score, there is a net score for the instructor and there is a score for per each question, which will actually help us know what each perspective or where the instructor is wrong or where he's right or where he's good or where he's bad. So we need to actually go through each perspective of the course.
Again, not the same thing. If the students are not filling the course feedback form, what use is उसका क्या फायदा है? आप
whoever fills it at the end of the day will fill it properly, and you can actually make use of the data that is actually filled properly than having it being filled for
having
the sake of having
data of just 10 students out of 150, लोग क्या यूज करेंगे इसका? अगर 150 में से 150 का डेटा आपको मिलेगा, is it not better than having just a data of 10 students out of 150?
But at the end of the day, it is skewed and it is of no use.
How can you say it is skewed? If we are having 10 space, आपने कभी भी कोर्स फीडबैक किसी भी यूनिट का देख लो, it is not so long. यहीं पे है इतना लंबा.
That is because there are a lot of dimensions to be explored in this institute. This is a diverse institute compared to most of the universities where you have actually a lot of diverse factors to be considered. Because we have a big classroom.
What diverse factors are being presented in that course feedback? That has 10 questions on the TA, 10 questions on course material कैसा था, 10 questions on class में prof time, question class में prof time पे आता था कि नहीं आता. Those type of questions आते हैं.
As I mentioned, bigger classrooms or larger set of students are there in the institute. So you have to see that how to cater to a bigger classroom. Most other universities, as you said, have smaller classrooms and it is quite efficient there. So you actually have to make sure that we have a filtering of the legible or the actually required feedback, not a hyped one just because people are filling it A, B, C, D and so on and so forth.
The point again is such a इतना लंबा कोर्स फीडबैक, आपको क्या पता लोगों ने जो येस दबाया वो ठीक से भरा कि नहीं भरा? आप कैसे बोल सकते
हैं? You have an option.
हाँ, तो येस दबा के भी आप नहीं पॉइंट इज हाँ शॉर्ट कोर्स में फीडबैक भरने का ऑप्शन दे रहे हैं हम आपको. एंड उसके 10-15 क्वेश्चन एकदम स्पेसिफिक पॉइंट.
I mean we should finish it up now.